Have a look at this character and try and guess their age. Even if you know, just pretend you don't. If you guessed anywhere under the age of 13, then you are wrong, because this character is 42 years old. I mean, what? This is where anime can be confusing, not making very much sense. You have some characters that look really young, but are much older, where you have this character who is 17 to 18 years old, or whoever this is, who looks no older than 10 years old, is apparently believed to be in her 30s or early 40s. I don't get it. Anime that do this kind of thing are always so odd, and that's not even mentioning the characters that are of a different species, that can live for like hundreds to thousands of years, yet still look like a bunch of children. But that is a whole nother rabbit hole I'd rather not get into. Anime is weird, man. Then there's the opposite, of characters who look much older than their actual age, like this guy from Ping Pong, who looks like he's in his 30s, but is like 16 to 17 years old, or a classic like Okabe, who is only 18, even though to me he looks to be in his mid-20s, or even this Attack on Titan character you may remember, who looks about 35 to early 40s. Oh wait, no, don't worry. He's 19. With plenty of more characters just like this, it can get confusing if you think on it too much. But an important part is how the story reflects with these kinds of characters. There are times in the specific anime a character is from, with the way they are is explained with an actual reason to it all. Such as what I slightly mentioned before, where the character isn't even a human, they are some kind of demon, god, elf or vampire, having all kinds of different lifespans, which is one thing, but then there is the more technical side of it, where it's a bit more detailed and more worked into the plot. For example, a large majority of the cast in Dr. Stone, since the whole premise of that anime is when some kind of light petrified the entire world, dooming humanity, until the main man Senku managed to break out of that stone-like state, and the rest is history. But the context of the story technically makes Senku around 3,700 years old, since he was frozen for that long, with his mind still being active the entire time. But biologically, Senku is really just a 15-year-old. Even though Senku does age quite a bit throughout the series, his appearance yet doesn't change. The context can really matter with characters such as these, with even more examples like Biscuit from Hunter x Hunter, who does not look like a 57-year-old woman from her appearance, yet she appears this way because she has some kind of transmutation nen powers that can alter her appearance. She does this since she isn't fond of how her real appearance is, which looks like this. I can kinda see where she comes from. Then there are even characters that can get a bit complicated, such as Rimuru, where Rimuru was born by being reincarnated, keeping their past lives' memories, where he was 37 before he died, but as he is now reincarnated as a little slime boy, he's more like 2 years old now, I suppose. But it can get a bit more confusing when they can go into their human form, to where the people who are uninformed of who Rimuru is would not see this as a 2-year-old slime creature that has the mind of a 37-year-old man with the body of a young person. But as Rimuru's case can be a bit confusing, you then have the ones that make no sense whatsoever. There are so many of these adult children. Why? You are not an office worker, go back to school. But another point I wanted to address is how some stories are quite questionable relating to the character's age, and how they feel unrealistic to the plot it's conveying. You have an anime about a biker gang fighting several rival gangs, with a few of them having tattoos. Oh, but wait, this guy's only 15, despite his appearance. Okay, that sure isn't misleading. Or a story about the Italian mafia going after a corrupt boss who's causing all kinds of mayhem to keep his identity hidden, where we follow the protagonist of this storyline, Giorno, who is only 15 years of age, which is an age I didn't expect from an Italian mafia member. He also looks like he's in his mid-20s. JoJo's is a series that is known for designing characters that look much older than what they really are. Jotaro Kujo, 17 years old, Panakota Fugo, 16, Trish, 15, Rohan Kishibe, 20, Bruno Bucciarati, 20, Lucy Steele, 14, there is no way she is 14. Quite a few of these ages make very little sense, especially with their appearances. It isn't really a big deal, it's just very bizarre. But this all relates to one big question. Why in anime are the cast of characters, especially the protagonists, relatively young? The answer to this is a very simple one, and that is the genre of shonen. Shonen straight up translates to young boy, so many anime cater to a younger audience by having young protagonist characters for the attended audience to feel like they can relate to these characters. Gon, Edward Elric, Naruto, Luffy are all characters that catch the attention of this demographic, which caused more anime to do the same, which isn't a bad thing at all. Now obviously, shonen isn't only targeted to young boys, it's much more broader than that, but it gives a good understanding of the whole shonen genre. For me, I do prefer watching a series where the cast are tailored more to the specific story, being a bit more realistic. It's not too much of a big deal when it feels a little too unrealistic. It's not going to ruin the show for me at all. I just get a bit more invested into things when the characters' ages actually make sense, unlike Tokyo Revengers or Golden Wind, having them be very young. I enjoy a cast in anime such as Delicious in Dungeon or Bungo Stray Dogs, having their ages suit the theme of the story a little bit more. There is also Kaiju number 8, which did kinda interest me when its protagonist is a 32-year-old dude, but it kinda ruins it when the people around him in the series keep calling him an old man. He's only 32, that's really not old at all, so I did find that a bit silly. I'm not saying that every anime should have older protagonists and characters, because a lot of anime work with having younger characters. Like any anime in a school setting, which is over half the animes out there, are always likely to have a cast of teenagers, which makes sense. And I find series such as Fullmetal Alchemist work well to having 15-year-old Edward and his 14-year-old brother Alphonse, where they both committed one of the biggest taboo in alchemy of trying to bring their mother back alive, which resulted in a horrible outcome where Al lost his body and Ed lost his leg, then later his arm when bringing Al's soul back. But I think the two being children in this works so well, since it shows the innocence of kids wanting to see their mother again, yet not knowing the dangers and risks, not understanding that what they're doing is wrong. They both have to live with that traumatic outcome, knowing what they did was wrong. All they both want now is to bring their brother's body back to normal. It adds an emotional depth to Ed and Al's bond together that they must live with for the rest of their lives. It's a great way of developing both brothers' stories from being in such a state at such a young age. A cast is one of the most important aspects when creating a storyline, and the characters' ages and appearances relating to a certain age can be important. When there are 40-year-olds looking like this, that's when I start to question just whose idea was it to do this, and it can make a plot feel more questionable than it needs to be. But when an anime gets it right, it enhances the story, possibly making an experience where you get attached and enjoy several kinds of characters.